Joe's not feeling too well, but we managed to find someone who is just as, if not more, knowledgeable in the arts of finance and economics. She's been working in the banking industry for all of 0 years. My sister, Alexis.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah,
Thanks for stepping in on such short notice, Lexi
you
Poo.
know, anything for a sibling.
We're going to try this. It's going to be a little different. I think the conversation will take a different turn. We want to talk about the Japanese yen depreciation and the action going on there. Scott Bessent, Scotty B, as we like to call him here, Alexis on this pro. Do you know who that is, Alexis? Do you know who Scott Bessent is?
Is a name that I've heard you mention on this podcast before.
Great.
Yeah.
Long-time listener.
I do listen. I don't know if it all goes through, but I've heard
so I think we're going to try to change that today. And hey, if this works out, there might be a place for you maybe full-time. We'll have a nice foil, just trying to keep us honest.
Get me on the payroll.
The other thing I was planning to do, I don't know if you remember this, Alexis, if you watched a couple episodes ago, we talked about the payment system just in the United States. And I think during that discussion I had with Joe, I think kind of exposed ourselves a little bit to some ignorance with regard to the payment system in the US. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing some of my own research just to really shore up my knowledge there. And I want to give you a primer. You're going to become an expert in the United States payment systems. It's going to touch, your everyday life because you pay for stuff.
Yeah. So I work in compensation, if that's at all relevant. I do not have an economics background, very layperson, try to tune in when I can, but I definitely, a lot of it goes over my head, not always paying attention. So this will be a learning experience for me as well. Always happy to learn, curious.
The first thing I want to mention is like a really small thing. This actually also is more close to what you do. You work in HR. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of curious to get your take as to what are people saying in terms of AI and like that impact on labor and hiring. People in your sphere must be talking about that.
All I can say is it took a while from an HR perspective to get into our policies. They have to be signed off by legal and everything. And I think for a while it was hard to get them in. But now with our new policy, actually, it's kind of mandatory to be using AI, or at least like brainstorming ways to use AI in your department, whatever that is. So we have it now all over our little intranet, just a whole page dedicated to how to find it. Even just as an HR team, we spent almost an entire department meeting talking about brainstorming ways we could use it day to day. So I've been using it, or at least playing with it.
There was an article recently in sort of Liberty Street Economics. I don't know if you know what that is. The New York Fed kind of magazine almost. They publish articles there that are a little more approachable. They're not like really heavy duty studies. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I just wanted to show you this graph. A lot of people are afraid of that, being laid off. But now instead, maybe there's more like, okay, actually they need to hire more people who are skilled in AI and they need to retrain people to use more.
Yeah, it's funny. So I went to a conference that we do for one of our big surveys on market data. And they already said that there's a premium that will be paid out to people who have AI skills. So it's just we have premiums for certain skill sets when you come into a company, and then AI skill sets are now going to be hypothetically paid more.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's a premium for AI workers.
All right. Alexis, what do you know? So I'm going to try something a little bit different. So we're going to have someone give us a quick overview. She's going to provide us a little background on what's going on with Japan and the yen. It's 2 minutes. Listen to it, and then we'll talk about it afterwards, okay?
The yen had been under sustained downward pressure for much of 2026. Wide interest rate differentials with the United States, concerns over Japan's expansionary fiscal stance under Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, elevated public debt, and external energy-related shocks all contributed. Earlier in the year, Japanese authorities conducted large-scale unilateral yen buying in April to May 2026, spending a record approximately 11.7 trillion yen, around $72 to $73 billion, after the dollar-yen rate approached 160. Those operations provided only temporary relief. The yen resumed its decline and, by late July, reached multi-decade lows near 163 to 164 per dollar, levels last seen in the mid-1980s. Japanese officials issued repeated public warnings of decisive or unannounced action. Bilateral discussions with the United States, including contacts during Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's May visit and subsequent talks, intensified in the background. On July 30th, Japan intervened unilaterally on a large scale. Estimates put the operation at roughly $53 billion, producing a sharp yen rally of several percent. The following day, Japan and the United States conducted a coordinated yen buying operation, the first joint action of this type in decades. US participation in outright yen purchases was the first since 1998. Gains partially retraced in the following days, reflecting the persistent rate differential and other structural pressures.
All right, go ahead. Why don't you give us your takeaways?
Fuck that, any of that.
That make any sense to you?
No. I
That's
got
fine.
like, 167 to the dollar at some point.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
That was down, and it was in like the 90s. So
You guys aren't talking about this at work or anything?
we're not talking about this at work, no.
Now, the interesting thing is that the United States is actually working with them. And this is like, has not been done
Okay.
since 1998.
Okay.
Like, and that was like this big Asian financial crisis that happened at the end of the 90s. Japan's, really interesting from like an economic perspective because their situation is so unique. It feels as though the Japanese policymakers are kind of stuck in a field that's just filled with a bunch of rakes. They're blindfolded and they're kind of groping around, and like any move they make for like whatever that they're trying to do, it just ends up hitting them right in the face. What are some things like when they're sitting down to try to make this policy decision of, okay, we're going to go intervene into the markets? What could they be thinking? And I think the reason for it is not like economic. I don't think it's necessarily kind of like financial. I think it's because the prime minister gave a promise to the people of Japan to say that we're going to help the kind of this whole cost of living problem that they've been faced with. If you look at Japan and you actually, this is like really the key thing. If you just look at the inflation rate, it's like, oh, it's 1%, 1.5%, which is really not a lot when you look at it. But if you look under the hood, the bulk of that 1%, just as it had been for like the last couple of years when inflation had finally come back, is food. And that's like really weird. That's not something we're really used to. So when I see them trying to, make the yen stronger, I think it's to help them feed the population. Like, I think that's really one of the big drivers.
That sounds nice. I mean, I think, aren't they kind of like, if we're in an individualist society, they're like a collective one, right? So are they focused more on like,
From the U.S. perspective, it's much more obvious. Like, why would Scott Bessent be willing to
help them?
help them? And, they'll say things like, we want to help combat these wild gyrations and stuff like that. I think that's just a legal cover, but I don't think it's the real reason. I don't think they just wanted to kind of address the wild fluctuations or whatever it is that they said. It's
What did you think
probably, I think it's more the food thing.
Oh, I was going to say, what do you think the real reason was? Or just,
The last thing that Bessent wants is for Japan to start selling the U.S. debt in order to help do these currency interventions. Does that make sense? Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me, Alexis. I can tell when you're lying.
that's somewhat, they have U.S. debt. So I didn't know you could sell U.S. debt somewhere else.
Oh, Alexis. So
I'm
here we
gonna
go.
say something here.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the world of treasuries.
So you
Lexi
could
Poo.
just, so I didn't know.
Oh, this is great.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. Let me lay this down for you.
Lay it down.
Yeah. Have you heard of, do you know what a U.S. Treasury bill is? U.S. Treasury note? U.S. Treasury
No.
bond? You know what any of those are? Okay.
It's bond stock.
It's basically imagine just like a piece of paper that says, we are going to pay you 4%, annualized. We're going to pay it twice a year for 30 years. And then at the end of those 30 years, we're going to give you $1 million. Okay. And that whole piece of paper. And if you hold that piece of paper, that means the U.S. government is going to pay you interest, that 5%, every 6 months. And then at the end of it, they're going to give you the $1 million plus the last interest payment. Now, the thing is, though, Alexis, is you don't have to hold on to that. You can sell that. You can sell that piece of paper. And you can sell it for a price, which is usually just a function of how many more of those interest payments are left, plus the final principal that needs to get paid. Let me ask you something about the payment system. Have you used Zelle?
Yeah, I've used Zelle.
Okay, what happens? What's going on?
Somewhere in the machines where the numbers of the money lays, okay? It just transfers it, so it gets out of your account.
Yeah, right.
Another account.
Yeah.
And it just leaves mine. So.
Does it happen immediately?
If you use Venmo, they say it takes like 1 to 3 days.
So like if I were to send you something, doesn't it show up though right away on the app?
Yeah.
You're saying it's not there though?
Not yet.
It's right there. It just shows you a number. Have you heard of clearing and settling? You ever heard that?
No.
So clearing is the act of when two banks like message each other and they make sure that the payment details are right. They verify the accounts. They confirm the signatures. They check for sufficient funds. They basically get everything ready before the money is actually moved. If you do batch payments, so like if, you know, between two banks, there might be like a million or something transactions that go back and forth, right? Bank A gives Bank B some money, Bank B gives Bank A. Wouldn't it be so much simpler if they just sort of, at the end of the day, they sort of netted it out? So they said, okay, after all these payments go back and forth, let's just take the difference and we just make one transfer at the end of the day. Now the settlement is when the money actually transfers. That's settlement. So they're not like the same thing. Now, one of the important thing is like this settlement process, like that settlement step, it can only happen in United States dollars in the electronic world. It can only finally happen at the Federal Reserve, the central bank. So even when like your bank says that, oh yeah, we sent the money, the final like rails or the final ledger on which the transaction's actually happening is at the central bank. And it's moving from one bank to like another one. Because that's where like digital US dollars live, ultimately. That's like really important.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know.
Understand like the US payment like rails, they kind of talk about this, the US payment system. It helps to talk about specific services that the central bank gives to their customers. And their customers are not you and me, they're other banks. They're like, you know, Chase, JP Morgan, Bank of America, have an account at the Federal Reserve. And like the Bank of America, when they want to send a wire, they have a couple options for services that are offered to them by the central bank. One is called Fedwire. Fedwire is something, it's real time, which means it happens instantly. Once you send the payment, it's gone. You can't get it back, and it happens just right there. It's only open during business days and during business hours. It costs quite a bit, relatively speaking. Another one is something called FedNow. So again, this is also real time, which means you can do it anytime. This one's different in that you can do it 24/7, 365. You don't have to just do it during business hours. This one costs about 4 to 5 cents per transaction, plus some monthly fee. Finally, there's some other ones, but for the big ones, we'll talk like the FedACH. And that one is like the batched one. So most of like your payroll, like you work in HR, payroll is pretty much always going to go through the ACH. It's very cheap. They only settle like once a day. So like, you put payroll in there, you know it's coming, and it'll net out between a whole bunch of different banks. Okay? Now that's really, really good for like high volume recurring payments. So direct deposits, bills, stuff like that. So this is like the underlying rails. Now, if you move up, there's a private sector on top of that, which is like the clearinghouse. Now, the clearinghouse is owned by a bunch of other banks. They have something called RTP, real-time payments. It's made possible because you can like pre-fund the account. You know what that means?
You put money
You
in
know what? Let's
before
just skip. Let's skip let's skip that one. So Venmo, Venmo is really interesting. It's like owned by PayPal, and one of the questions you need to ask with Venmo is like, where's the actual ledger? So the ledger is like all the people that have an account at Venmo. If like person A sends something to person B in that account, there's some table somewhere that like makes that transaction.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, in Venmo, it lives at PayPal. It's just a database with this thing happening. So if I send you $50, Venmo has a computer basically that says, okay, from here to here, it's send $50. But that money hasn't actually moved. Like the dollars have not moved. And in fact, with Venmo, the money doesn't actually move until you move money out of Venmo.
Okay, yeah.
And that's when Venmo is like, all right, and it goes talk to the banks that it has to get the money back to your account. You don't actually move any money with Venmo. You just kind of like change your balance on the app.
Right.
Zelle is a little different. That one's operated also by the early warning system. It's called early warning systems. Believe it or not. I think it's also owned by a bunch of big banks. What that effectively is, it's like a messaging system. It's like a check. It's just to facilitate the clearing. You'll do something to Zelle, and it'll just, everything underneath it will say, okay, person A at bank, X wants to send to person B at bank Y.
Yeah.
And you don't need to put in any further information. It's just kind of contained within your phone number, which is like all you need. And then it'll work out actually how to do the settling, however the banks between them want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could, and that's like kind of up to the bank what they want to do. They could use one of the FedNow things. They could use like RTP at the clearinghouse. They could use the ACH thing. It depends on the bank and the relationship. So that's also not really real time. You got to wait depending on whatever the banks below them want to do. All right, Lexi Poo. That's all I had for you.
All right. Well, that was very interesting. I learned some things. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time.
Anytime.
Yeah. Well, this has been another episode of the Root of All Evil podcast. My name is Luke.
I'm Alexis.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Feel better, Joe.
Yeah. Well, drink water, feel better, get some sleep.
Hydrate and sleep, yeah.
See you next time.
See ya.
All right. Bye.